Bringing in the two careers in a truck for September with a little Adam Lambert. He was a American Idol, and sung with one of his more famous songs, "What Do You Want From Me," which I personally love this song. He's very genderqueer, gay male, and overall a very pretty man. That also is now the front lead singer for Queen, and they've gone on tour, several world tours, and just has an amazing voice. Doesn't get in the press as much as he used to. Yeah. But he's been out of the music scene for 12, 14 years now. So, he's not the trendy cool kid anymore. It kind of trends real fast. But this is Two Queers in a Truck with Christian and myself, Jenny-Jaymes Gunn, up to our wackiness and stirring conservatives up. We've had a lot of conservative intention, which, quite frankly, always surprises me. I'll never. I guess the same reason why we will watch certain, networks or follow certain politicians that are more conservative is that we kind of want to see what the other side's doing. And I think there's a morbid curiosity of what, people are seeing, except, watching Fox News is kind of like drinking from the toilet. You don't really want to do it, but you kind of have a morbid curiosity to watch others do that. But anyway, I try to get my Fox clips based on what I see on the Twitterscape, which limits it to like 30 seconds to a minute. And that's usually enough once I see pretty much any of them. So we'll jump right into it. Our first topic is about our good old friend Marco Rubio. Chris, he's in the news because he dropped a Bible verse, a verse from Matthew, not Matthews, and it's pretty funny because he dropped it on Twitter. He quoted Matthew 25:35, "For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. A stranger, and you welcomed me," which is very bizarre because it sounds like a very socialistic or socialism supporting quote. Somebody, of course, they drug him. They goes, "I was sick, and you voted to gut my health care. I was an immigrant. You rejected your own reform bill. I was poor, and you cut the taxes for the rich people." And absolutely slayed him. And of course, the Twitter scape.
Why did he do the quote? I mean,
I think he's a very, very conservative evangelicals. For a lot of people that don't follow Marco Rubio, he turns to his evangelical roots and uses that as a crutch because that's the kind of person that's going to vote for him. He's very, very, very out there, and not too far from the same type of stuff that Dick Suckus, the governor of Florida, says all the time. But so I think he just whatever he said, he picked a Bible verse that was very, very, but very much like, so you're for feeding people, giving them drinking water, which Mississippi could use that right now, and you're a stranger. So are you pro letting immigrants in now? Like it's a very bizarre, very anti-Republican. There's nothing about Republicanism or MAGAs that would actually support that, and it's just kind of it's kind of wacko that he would use that quote because it doesn't support anything that's about his party. And so I think he got it. Marco in 2016 got obliterated by Trump. And Trump's not the sharpest tool in the shed, but he just rolled Marco, and you gotta wonder. He just isn't at the top of his class. Like he got outsmarted consistently by Ted Cruz, Cancun Cruz. So like he was the dumbest of the three, leading candidates, and that's why he got obliterated in the primaries. And so he's probably not going to even hang on to his Senate seat. He's getting drugged, and Val Demings is just former police chief of Orlando, a law and order person, absolutely brilliant, would represent Florida so much better than Marco Rubio. So at least she wouldn't be an embarrassment. I mean, even if she didn't do much in her first term, she wouldn't be a national embarrassment like Marco Rubio. I mean, Marco Rubio went from a never Trump to licking his boots.
Yep.
To just looking like an idiot. Just looking like the flapping idiot that he is. And it's kind of weird. It's Chris, Ted Cruz is the same way. Just, one moment you never support Donald Trump to just being his boy. He snaps his finger and Putin snaps his finger too, and they lapdog Cruz comes running. Chris not real good with his own personal dog. Leaving him in the cold. But yeah, it's just very bizarre. It's the Republican Party is just. I mean, they were a hellscape since Nixon. But this current version this is very bizarre. I mean, it's quotes like that. You just go, are you saying it just so that you can get doxxed and drugged on the Twitter? Are you saying it so that you look stupid, or do you think that's actually a selling point? I mean, you kind of referred to our previous show, about the dumbest American states. And it's like Florida is just everybody that's up for office in the Senate and in the gubernatorial deal, that's a Republican, just wants to sound as dumb as they humanly can. I guess I think it's a winning strategy because Trump is so dumb. I don't know. I mean, to me at one time it was counterintuitive to be running for a major office and sound stupid.
Yep.
But not anymore. It's a selling point for the Republican Party. It brings out the best in them, or what they think is the best. The next one is Oklahoma is banning a big old list of books to follow suit like the other states are doing. But my biggest question is people in Oklahoma, do they actually read? I didn't even know they had books in Oklahoma. I mean, I've lived near Oklahoma. I've been in Oklahoma a few times. Yep. I was shocked that they find out they even have library.
Yep.
I figured between guns and the Bible and a couple other things and some illicit sex, homosexual sex with underage sex male workers, I was pretty sure nobody in that state read anything. I mean, I figured even the Bible was probably the picture kids version. They make the little cartoon one where it's mostly pictures with a little bit of verbiage that, the 1 or 2 literate adults in Oklahoma could read the really small words. But I was super shocked. There's also a little known fact. One of the things that's great about Oklahoma for Texas is that Oklahoma sucks so bad it keeps Texas from sliding into the Gulf. That joke's never going to get old for me.
Well, we're not taught that. Everyone from Texas, you're taught that joke in the 2nd or 3rd grade. It's isn't that one of the original?
I think they put it on your birth certificate in Texas.
Exactly.
It's a couple things you want to do that supposedly everything's bigger in Texas, which is absolutely not true.
That's true.
Guys there. And two, the biggest thing is you can always make fun of Oklahoma. It is the automatic neighbor state. It's our Mississippi. Is that we can make fun of Louisiana, but they've got New Orleans. So New Orleans,
they got New Orleans
and New Mexico has Albuquerque and Santa Fe, and it's really cool, peace, love, dope type stuff, and it's really cool. But Oklahoma, pretty much, is our Mississippi. It is. You can just tell the moment you enter Oklahoma. It just is like your IQ drops 15 points automatically, no matter how you vote. But they're banning some really threatening books, like To Kill a Mockingbird by Lee Harper, The Outsiders, of Mice and Men.
By S.E. Hinton, The Outsiders. S.E. Hinton wrote that book. Yeah.
The Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass by Frederick Douglass. I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. Like classic literature, nothing salacious about it, nothing sexual, really. I mean, just typical. I mean, again, those books do have a lot of big words in them. They do have a lot of complex thoughts. So I'm pretty sure they just think those books are mocking Oklahoma because they just don't understand them. That could be a problem.
Well, actually, Jenny, that book, Outsiders, is like one of 3 books that S.E. Hinton is actually a female writer. And that was a book we had to read in 4th grade, I believe. And it's actually about these young guys that are considered outsiders, and they made a movie out of it as well. And it's the relationship between the guys that's like buddies, pals. They probably think that's a gay thing. It's not a gay relationship. It's just like they're really good friends. It was written by a woman, so it's like from a woman's kind of point of view. But it's a very, very good book, and I remember reading that book. It was a great book.
Yeah, it's a great education. Like all those books have not only are classic American literature, but are also books that, at the most, they just create a little bit of thought. They maybe will challenge. If you're a really narrow-minded person, I guess they would be threatening, because a lot of them were written by people of color, a lot of people that think outside the box, per se.
You know what, Jim? I don't remember, and I sorry to interrupt you, and I know we're doing this show real quickly. That was one of the only books I ever remember reading because it was interesting. I don't remember reading thoroughly a lot of other books after that because they just weren't interesting. So I'm sad to see they're taking that book out, because someone like me who has a difficult time actually reading an entire book, I was mesmerized that whole book. And I remember that was one of the only books. Past then, I would only skim through books or do Cliff Notes. But that was one of the only books that I remember at that age. And to get someone that age to read a book, it's hard to do. So that's terrible. Yeah.
I mean, it's just stupid. But then again, well, anyway, books are threatening. This is our first break, and we will be right back. Hey, everybody, you can catch us on your favorite audio podcast platform, Spotify, and all Apple Store, the Google machine, and whoever else does podcasts. We're on there. We broke in, and we're staying. So enjoy the Two Queers in the Truck on your favorite audio podcast platform. Thanks for listening or watching. Bye-bye. We are back with some more Two Queers in Truck. And on our third subject already, I'm keeping it to that 5-minute segment. Just for full disclosure, my partner in crime is on the road coming back from a family reunion. And we're trying to keep it short because he has an early departure time in the morning. And so we're trying to keep it on time so he can get his beauty sleep. But we don't want no ugly, haggard-looking Christian now. We got to keep him all pretty for the ball.
That's right.
Anyway, Putin said that he would take Kiev in 11 minutes. Probably one of his most famous failed quotes in his entire life, which there's been many, except for, hey, get down there, I'm ready to pee on you. But anyway.
And that was when he was talking to Trump.
Yeah, that's when he was talking to Trump, and he was successful in that.
That's right.
Little golden showers for everybody. But the Ukrainian hackers that have been just fighting this war brilliantly, creating fake profiles on these dating sites to trick Russian soldiers into giving away their location. So they took these really beautiful Ukrainian models and just different little cutie pies and just drew them into the hunting hall. They gave their exact location. A couple days later, the Ukrainian military blew up that base. Just paid them back. And, and they're fighting the war in different ways. They're making fake and wooden missile launchers so that the Russians will target those things and not hit the real missile launchers, and just different things like that. But that was one of my favorite ones. It made me giggle a little bit. I saw it on Twitter today, and I thought, absolutely brilliant.
Don't you remember when the war started, we reported that we did it on one of our current events on our other show, that the way that the Ukrainians were able to determine where the Russians were because they were following them on Grindr, and they were able to see.
Still doing that too. So there's a lot of download game in the military, which you know, I mean, we have the Navy, so we have an entire department for that. You know, 150 men go down in a submarine, and 75 couples come back up 6 months later. You know, there's a ton of Navy jokes out there. I mean, those people did an entire song about them. I mean, come on. But anyway, so between Grindr, different dating sites, just baiting these, you know, Christian, you know, they're probably young men, you know, 18 to 25, that are fighting on the front line and just getting slaughtered by the Ukrainians. And so, of course, obviously they're going to jump on it and think, oh, we're going to get it. We're going to get a little honey hole action in the middle of this war, not thinking that possibly computer hackers could be baiting them into this, which I think is just a brilliant strategy. And you know, they probably don't have access to a lot of like Google information. Russia is very filtered, very restraining about information. So they probably don't know even how bad they're losing. And so, you know, that's just Putin's governing style, which is very authoritarian. And so probably one of the few things they can do is go on dating sites.
Hey, Jen, do you think that's how they track Lady G in South Carolina?
Well,
just open a Grindr app and you could.
I'm sure. Well, he has more of a sweet tooth for sex workers. I mean, you know, because quite frankly, from the descriptions that the Washington Post had from those sex workers in the greater Washington, D.C. area, naked, he's not probably one of the more attractive human beings on the planet. I can tell you. I had to stop reading for just a little while as I puked. Like the whole ladybug line, and it was very descriptive.
Everybody needs loving.
More power to me. You know, I don't
do sex workers?
Anybody. I don't shame anybody, and I'm not.
Yeah.
Like whatever floats his boat, as long as it's consenting, and all that. I don't care about. I've got a lot of friends.
Hey, quick question: Do sex workers charge more if they're not attracted to the person?
If they can get it, yeah. I mean, how
would they? How do they do? I mean, crazy question, but I'm just curious. I mean, if they went up to the person and they were like just completely like Lindsey Graham-ish, can they say, "I'm sorry, I'm not really into this"? I mean, let's cuddle. I
mean, that's why they've been.
I don't know how that works.
I mean,
is there a surcharge?
For vomit, yes, and all. But anyway, you talk about a masterful gag reflex control if you had sex with Lindsey Graham. But anyway, on the next topic, this is a nice segue. Fuck your feelings. Biden basically said that this last week, and I love this for him. You know, Biden. A lot of people don't know this. Biden, especially in his earlier, more rambunctious days, was known as kind of the Democratic Bob Dole.
Yeah.
He was known as kind of a power broker, but also kind of an asshole.
Yep.
And as he's gotten older, and when he became the vice president to President Obama,
and he kind of took on
this older, kinder, grandfatherish uncle, chill dude, you know, and he played such a submissive role and a backseat role with Obama, and just really, you know, as he's gotten older. I mean, he's considerably older, and so he's kind of developed this FDR type persona that's tough, but just kind of, you know, trying to father our country along, and you know, and just get us through these tough times. You know, both in the vice presidency when we were having the Great Recession and we were losing our auto industry and the baking industry all at once. You know, like we were wondering if we'd wake up and all the banks were going to be gone. You know, and there was just a lot of panic. Plus, we had a 2-front war going on, and like there was a lot going on when they became vice president. And again, he assumed the presidency in a very 12 years later. In a very, like, probably the equivalent to the 1920s and 30s combined. I mean, you know, on what he's taking on, and not to mention the outside world with the Russian-Ukrainian war and just everything else that's going on. And I think he's just gotten to the point where he's going, you know, I'm probably going to need to become that asshole again. And I need to show my own party that I am Sleepy Joe, but I need to show, well, we've done good things. You know, we've done some powerful things in 17, 18 months. And we need to kind of throw this back in their lap and say, no, fuck your feet. You guys are fascists. You've gone out of your way to be fascists, and you fly the flag of the Nazis and the Confederates, like both fascist countries. You know, like if you look up fascism, you see those two flags, like, you know, horrific, horrible failures of history that killed millions of people and enslaved more. And you fly them at every one of your events. You can't go to a Trump MAGA event and not see those two flags. And so if you don't want to be called fascist, one, ban the Nazi flag and the Confederate flag is a really, really good start. They're not even American flags. I mean, you can keep flying the Trump flag, even though it's fascist too, but at least it's representative of the party. You know, because Trump is still technically the leader of the party. And so, to me, if you don't want to be called that, it's like, if you really, really love chocolate candy bars, and somebody says, you love chocolate candy bars, you go, oh, no, I don't, and get all pissed off. I'm like, then why have you spent the last 6 years talking about chocolate candy bars on your Instagram? like, why deny what you've been doing and working so hard, calling us snowflakes and calling us liberal communists and calling Biden a pedophile? And we've just gone through over and over. And I think he's got to a point, he goes, kind of like, and I think Beto kind of started a couple of weeks ago when he motherfucked the MAGAs that were in there gaslighting him about Uvalde. I think Beto probably started that trend and just said, look, motherfuckers, kids died. Come on. But you can stop it.
Yeah. Yeah, but also, as we mentioned on our other show, that I didn't say this, but on PBS, they were doing like some analyst about Biden's speech. And one of the analysts said that they believe that Biden purposely was trying to bait Trump, because the more Trump speaks, that's the GOP's great. Remember that they were afraid he was going to announce running for presidency this weekend, but he's decided to hold off. But they want Trump to continue to be in the spotlight because they want people, the more Trump speaks, the less people like the candidate. And so he was at that, it was at the rally on Saturday for the person running for office, Dr. Oz. Yeah, or Mehmet Oz is what they call him, or what is his name? And he spoke like 90% of the time about himself. And so it almost seemed like a presidential campaign rally. And so, you know, Biden, I'm glad he did. I hope he keeps.
I hope he keeps going.
Trump keeps talking.
And on that note, this is our second and final break of the show. Yep. And we'll be right back.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for watching us on Two Queers in a Truck. Don't forget, you can watch us anytime at your leisure on our video podcast platforms like Facebook and YouTube. But you can also listen to us, either this show or any of our past shows, on our audio podcast platforms like Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and all of the other ones. So once again, thank you for watching Two Queers in a Truck. I hope you enjoy our show.
We are back with some more Two Queers in a Truck. And Trump's doing him no favors. And by the day, as the DOJ releases more and more information about all those little pesky records and keepsakes and souvenirs, the Mar-a-Lago estate, it's just keeping him in the news and not in a good way.
Yep.
Well, and speaking of that, the good old stalling judge is held up pursuing the case against Trump on the espionage and the mysterious records until I think they called it a master arbiter or a document master, whatever, overlooks or oversees the documents themselves, which is just a stall tactic. It's something Republicans have been screaming for and said, we need a third party to come in because the DOJ is crooked, which they're always crooked when they're not investigating, a Republican, versus when they were investigating Hillary, for example, on emails and on the other stuff in Libya. They were great then.
Yeah.
What is really funny is the head of the DOJ and the head of the FBI are both Republicans.
Yeah.
They've always voted Republican. And so
he appointed the head of the FBI.
Correct.
Trump did.
Still in office. Still, the Biden hadn't even touched him.
Yeah.
So the people that ordered that, and then the judge that approved the warrant was a Trump employee, which is even more hilarious.
Yep.
And even jackass Governor Dukakis of Florida, since that search warrant was issued in Florida because of, that's where Trump lives, even Dukakis said, no, it was a legal and ethical warrant. It needs to be looked at. Now, of course, Dukakis would like Trump out of the way. I mean, because then, all of a sudden, Governor Dukakis thinks that he's going to be the front runner. I got news for him. When you lose the governorship in 2022, there's a good chance you ain't going to be president in 2 years.
So Jenny, they said that that federal judge that decided this was one of Trump's last appointees, and I don't know this, but what it sounded like is he wanted to make sure that whatever judge was over where he lives, that region, was one of his appointees, because he was foreseeing problems, and he wanted to make sure that there was someone in place where they could go to and always appeal things and so forth. And so the DOJ can appeal this to like the appellates or whatever you call it, but that specific judge was appointed by Trump. It was one of his last appointees, and that was so. It's almost like saying, "All right, I live here, and I want the police officers around me to be hired by me right before I quit." And right. So we'll give him a speeding ticket. So,
yeah, from everything that I've read and how far back this whole espionage thing goes, it has roots to at least 2018 or 2019. And there's so many coincidences that, the NRA had that lobbyist that was a Russian female lobbyist that was in Washington for so many years. You have the NRA ties to Russia. You have Jared Kushner that's done so much business in Russia and Saudi Arabia. They happen to both those countries have both put out hits and killed American assets all over the world, both of those countries in the last few years, very easily, like they had inside information. There was an inquiry in 2019 about documents being leaked to the Saudis and to the Russians, and they said they didn't know the exact source. I believe this investigation has been going on a long time. I think they waited for him to get out of office. I think they waited for things to be used. I think they set a trap, not a bad trap. This is what you do in law enforcement. If he sold any of this documentation, which I do believe they have the evidence of this already, I think the last piece of the puzzle was getting the hard evidence out of Mar-a-Lago, because I think they've been investigating this for years. And this is why they've been screaming about Hunter Biden's laptop and his connections overseas. And I think it's just been a deflection over this really big scam that also involves a lot of Republican senators, because if we remember, they spent 4th of July in 2018 in Russia. There was like about 10 Republican senators. What were they doing over there? And it's just, I think when this all unfolds, it's going to make January 6th seem like a housewarming party. I think it's going to be brutal. There's no way around this. He was caught with the evidence, and evidence that he should not, and as a former employee of the federal government, should not have had. And there was no excuse. No former president needs access to that. It stays at the federal-owned home, which is the White House, or a federal installation. But those documents aren't, when you're read in with those type of documents, without a shadow of a doubt, these aren't things you just carry around. You don't use these to fill in the litter box of your cat, for example. Like this is stuff, these are keepers, and they're very important. to our American safety. Number 6 is a little bit funnier topic. It's there's been a trend. So Labor Day was trending recently, like it always does, just like Memorial Day and so on and so forth. But people outside the U.S., because of the Dobbs decision and the were actually thinking Labor Day was trending because of forced births and forced labors. And so they were thinking it had something to do with Roe versus Wade being overturned. And so a lot of foreign folks, even in the UK, because America is not known for celebrating labor, but since we've had such a revival of the labor movement, it's trended a little bit more, and you've seen Democrats being a little bit more publicly supportive of it, which they've tended to kind of stick away from it in previous years, especially under Republicans. But you've noticed that Labor Day this year seems to be trending a lot. Yeah. And so, I mean, I can see where you can think that. And just considering how explosive the Roe decision has been, in the news, and there's been so many devastating Republican losses with Kansas and Alaska, two places that are extraordinarily conservative, like take it to the main conservative states, that have overwhelmingly made very progressive, very Democrat moves.
What's the state, Jen? Sorry to interrupt you. What's the state that's trying to the actual citizens are trying to get the that what happened in what is the state that was it Kansas? With that vote? They're citizens in another state. I can't remember which state it is. They're trying to get that same thing on their ballot, and the Republicans are suing them to keep it off the ballot. And so it's such a rare thing that they're actually trying to squash what the citizens want, because they know if it's on the ballot, it may pass. And I don't know which state it is. It's Michigan or some state.
Offhand, I think it's either Michigan or Wisconsin. I think it's
it's one state.
I'm not 100. Yeah, it hasn't made a lot of news because I think it got on the ballot. I think it got on the ballot for the fall election, I believe, because there was I think the judge ruled against the Republicans, if I remember right. I'll have to research that, but I'm almost 100% sure. I want to say it's Wisconsin for some odd reason, but I may be wrong. It may be Michigan, but it was a Great Lakes state, and
that's a wonderful idea, though. I mean, that's a wonderful idea. Let's put it to a vote.
Yeah, I mean, I think, this is another reason why you passed the ERA. The ERA got ratified by the 38th state of Virginia just a few years ago, and still hasn't made it onto the floor of the Congress. And so, to me, you ratify the ERA, you ratify the LGBT bill that would have given us a civil rights bill. And you'd be done with it, and it ends all these transgender bathroom bills. The settles the reproductive rights. It codifies it. You move on. They're basic human rights. There isn't. We shouldn't be. We don't have time, honestly, to discuss stuff like this. We really don't. It's like we're majoring in minors, and which only Matt Gaetz really likes to do that. But I mean. He's got a sweet tooth for them minor girls. He's like dazed and confused. The older I get, those high school girls still stay the same. The old Matthew McConaughey line from that movie. I just picture Matt Gaetz driving an El Camino with AstroTurf in the back. But anyway, it's just super bizarre, and this the whole status, even the debate. Reproductive rights is bizarre to me. It's so bizarre because it's such a losing issue for anybody that's going to argue that. Considering women make up the majority, there's more women than men in the country. Women traditionally, cisgendered women, especially straight women, tend to go along and get along in most political movements. This is not one of them. This is one that whether you have the capability of reproducing or not, whether you're healthy enough or have, even the organs to do that in place anymore, you still know somebody that dies. You still know somebody. And you just saw that South Carolina legislature, that male just practically break down a Republican and realizing somebody in his district, a 19-year-old woman, almost died because of this thing, because she had a baby that was stillborn inside her system. They couldn't take it out because the doctors, consulted the attorneys and said, no, you'll get sued. You'll be put in jail for committing an abortion on a dead fetus.
Yeah.
Now, has no chance, no viability. He's completely dead. There's nothing alive about it. And so this girl is literally having sepsis, going in her body. Luckily, the body finally started to push it out before it became dangerous for her. And, luckily she survived and is healthy. But between the emotional scars and the physical scars of something like that, that's very common. Stillborns happen in any stage of pregnancy. It's just, it's part. I know so many women that have had babies, fetuses die literally on the birthing table. It's just part of life. It's like not every one of us is going to make it out, even after 9 months in the baking of the oven. I've got family members that's handed too, and so abortion is part of healthcare. Even before, air quotes, before Roe, we didn't make this as big of a deal. It was always in the hands of the doctors. The people that go to school for this shit. They don't let me or you decide this. They don't let for God's sake, you don't want somebody in Congress deciding to make these decisions. We used to leave this up to the doctors.
Yeah.
And now we have to debate it. I'm like, no, I think I want the person that went to 8 years of school and, is trained to do this, to make that decision. That's the way it should always be, no matter what. Yeah. And just call me kooky, especially after COVID. Medical doctors, medical personnel should be making medical decisions and policies. That's it, end the story. Pretty simple thing. But on that note, we are on our 6th topic. We having a little short show, like we said from the outset, to keep Christian moving along on his duty rest, so he doesn't look all haggard and tired tomorrow night. But anyway, we'll close out with a little bit more. What do you want from me from Adam Lambert? And I'll see you later, babies.
Bye, boo.
Be safe.
Bye, y'all.
Hey, y'all. Thanks for watching Two Queers in a Truck and all of our Carry Crews. We covered a whole bunch of fun subjects. I will see you next week. It's a promise and a threat. Goodbye.
Bye, boo.